the same thing. A perfect way to.
Great. Well, we will call this meeting to order and look for any public comment in the room before going to closed session. Seeing none.
Actually, let me just do a quick roll call count. Councilmember Robbins. Here. Councilmember Cregan.
Here. It's not working.
Oh, not working. Mayor, oh, okay.
There you go. Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wallace.
Here.
Mayor Bass.
Here.
Absent is Councilmember Middlebrook.
All right. So now that we've done roll call, we'll look for public comment. Seeing none in the room, we'll look on Zoom.
We have no participation via Zoom.
Great. We will go ahead and move this meeting into closed session. Good evening. Before we shall call this meeting to order, we will hear instruction on how the public may access Spanish interpretation.
Thank you, Mayor. The following message will repeat in Spanish. We are offering live interpretation into Spanish via our Zoom platform. To access our Spanish channel, press the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen, where you will see a globe icon. Choose Spanish. If you're joining via Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More or the three dots at the bottom of your screen. Bienvenidos. Estamos ofreciendo interpretación en español en vivo y en directo durante esta sesión en nuestra plataforma de Zoom. Para tener acceso a interpretación, oprima el icono del globo terráqueo al pie de su pantalla y seleccione Spanish. Si está uniéndose a nosotros vía Zoom en su teléfono inteligente, seleccione los tres puntitos al pie de su pantalla, elija interpretación de idiomas y pulse español. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor. Back to you.
Great, thank you. We'll move on to our land acknowledgement. The City of South Lake Tahoe acknowledges the lands we occupy today are the lands and home of the Washichu, the people from here known today as the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California, a sovereign nation. Since the beginning of time and for thousands of years before the arrival of any other people, the Washoe lived here and cared for this place, with values and intention that we can all learn from. On behalf of the City Council, I would like to acknowledge, thank, and honor the indigenous Washoe tribal communities that are the past, present, and future stewards of the Lake Tahoe Basin. And with that, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and for the roll call, Ms. Blankenship.
Councilmember Middlebrook,
Here.
Councilmember Robbins.
Here.
Councilmember Cregan,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wallace.
Here.
Mayor Bass.
Here.
All present.
Great. In closed session report, Ms. Stroud.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bear with me because we have a lengthy report tonight. We had 3 items on closed session this afternoon. The first was public employee performance evaluation for the city attorney, and there is no reportable action. Second was public employee performance evaluation for the city manager, and there is no reportable action. And then the third was conference with legal counsel on existing litigation regarding the workers' comp appeals board case of employee Stephen Monday, and there is no reportable action. And then I have 2 matters to report out from previous closed sessions regarding a matter that was considered on August 13th, 2024, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. City Council voted that day 3-0 with Cregan and Friedrich absent to file a petition for an order to abate substandard conditions and appoint a receiver for the Sunray Hotel property, and that petition has now been filed. There is a hearing scheduled for November 22nd, and then on September 24th, 2024, we had a conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation regarding the appeal of 2 citations issued to PAC 1 CA 2020 LLC and PAC 18 CA 21 LLC, otherwise known as Picasso, regarding properties at 783 Michael Drive and 3737 Terrace Drive. And City Council voted unanimously to authorize settlement agreements regarding those citations, with Councilmember Robbins recusing on the settlement regarding Michael Drive because of a real property interest in the vicinity. And the settlement terms are summarized as follows. Picasso can continue to advertise and resell shares of fractional ownership in those 2 properties, and in addition, 3914 Saddle Road, that were all acquired and established by Picasso prior to the city's 2021 cease and desist letter. In exchange, Picasso has agreed not to expand to any more properties in the city of South Lake Tahoe. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Stroud. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our proclamation. This will be a proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month for Live Violence Free. Great. All right. Whereas October is annually recognized as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and whereas domestic violence programs in California provide essential life-saving services for survivors, their children, and communities, and whereas there is a need to provide education, awareness, and understanding of domestic violence and its causes, and whereas approximately 35% of California women and 31% of California men experience physical, intimate partner violence in their lifetimes. And whereas California has higher rates of domestic violence experienced by both men and women when compared to the national average, and whereas in the city of South Lake Tahoe, 1 in 4 people report physical domestic violence according to Barton's Community Health Needs Assessment, and whereas domestic violence affects people of all genders, sexual orientations, ages, racial, ethnic, cultural, social, religious, and economic groups in the United States and here in California. And whereas, according to the American Psychological Association, women with disabilities have a 40% greater risk of intimate partner violence than women without disabilities. And whereas 54% of transgender and gender nonconforming people have experienced domestic violence in their lifetime. And whereas domestic violence is the 3rd leading cause of homelessness among families in the United States. And whereas throughout the country, an estimated 8 million days of paid work is each year as the result of intimate partner violence. And whereas domestic violence costs $8.3 billion in expenses annually, a combination of higher medical costs and lost productivity. And whereas children exposed to domestic violence can experience long-term consequences, finding difficulty at school, substance abuse, behavioral problems in adolescence, and serious adult health problems. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of South Lake Tahoe does hereby proclaim the month of October 2024 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and calls upon all citizens, community agencies, faith-based community groups, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation efforts to support families, thereby helping to prevent domestic violence and strengthening the community in which we live.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Chelsea Thomas, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director of Live Violence Free in partnership with our extraordinary team of case managers that are here tonight. We are dedicated to empowering survivors, breaking the cycle of violence, and building a safer and stronger community for all. I want to thank you for this critical proclamation recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I would also like to express my deep gratitude to the City of South Lake Tahoe, including the Police Department and Housing Programs, for their partnership in serving survivors. Domestic violence affects our community in profound ways, as noted in the proclamation. 1 in 4 individuals in South Lake Tahoe experiences intimate partner violence, a staggering reality that shows the depth of the issue. Our work is critical to ensuring that our community thrives. We run the only safe house in the counties of El Dorado and Alpine, provide crisis intervention and mental health support, and facilitate education in our local schools. Over the past year, we've helped 191 survivors access safe housing, answered 1,000 crisis calls, provided 8,000 services, and served over 5,000 community members. But domestic violence is not just an individual issue. It impacts our entire community, our youth, families, neighbors, and even our economy. The cost of domestic violence extends beyond the immediate trauma, contributing to homelessness, lost productivity at work, and a cycle of hardship for generations to come. This proclamation is a vital step in raising awareness, but it's just the beginning. We must all act to support survivors, prevent violence, and create a community where everyone feels safe and valued. At Live Violence Free, we remain committed to providing life-saving services and fostering education and prevention efforts in collaboration with our community partners. We invite everyone to join us this October in making an impact. Whether by volunteering, spreading awareness, or become champions of change, our collective mission is strengthened by the contributions of each and every one of us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas. That was really great. All right, so with that, we are going to move on to public communications. This is the public's opportunity to speak on any topic not listed on this agenda. Comments shall be limited to 4 minutes, and in accordance with the Brown Act, the City Council cannot deliberate or vote on any matter raised under public communications, but may briefly respond to the statements made or questions posed. And with that, we will go ahead and open up public comment here in the room. Yes, Mr. Mann.
Tom Milham, Commander of American Legion Post 795. It's my privileged to announce that 3 weeks from yesterday, on November 11th, we will be again celebrating, having a ceremony at the American Legion commemorating Veterans Day, 11/11 at 11 in the morning. We're honored that both Chief Stevenson and Drennan have committed to having representatives there, hopefully themselves as well. And also, Councilmember Cregan will be there to speak, and the city manager, but I asked him not to wear his hat this time so I can pick him out in the audience. Last time he had his hat on, I didn't see him back there because I was looking, never mind. We're also honored again to have Chewy from Sombrero Mexican Restaurant to be there offering free tacos to anybody who shows up. So we would like to make this a public announcement that anybody who would like to come to Veterans Day and honor our veterans who have served our country to please show up November 11th at 11 a.m. at the American Legion. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Milham. Yes.
Hi, my name's Dennis Cobb. I don't know any of you guys, except I've met Joe a couple of times. He's been super nice to me. Anyway, I am a layman preacher, and what's coming up now is not what everybody thinks it is. It's a spiritual battle that we're in, and I'm going to leave a little literature with Joe if he wants to pass it out to people or make copies. But basically, if anybody would like, they can check out the story of Cherie and Shayla Peoples in 2013, a truancy story. I won't go into details. And as far as Hurricane Helena, I'm sorry, those people should be getting a lot more than they're getting from the government, which that's a long story too. I'm trying to keep this short. This is a battle of good and evil. Like I said, this is a spiritual battle we're in right now. And if you believe the lies are a truth, you're going to believe the truth is a lie. That only makes sense. 175 million to Lebanon recently, compared to 92 million for the hurricane victims, makes my head spin. But a lot of money should be given to the poor and the homeless in this country, and not sent overseas to other places. As far as no ID to vote, that's violating the Constitution, which I don't know how we've come to violate the Constitution. But basically, that's all I have to say, and I'll give a copy to Joe of this, and if you guys want to make copies and check it out, that's fine. If not, it's fine too. Anyway, thank you for letting me speak, and thank you all for serving our country.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we will go to Zoom.
We'll go ahead and open our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide non-agendized public comments. I will note for the record that we did receive public comments, and I distribute to council public comments from Puck, Abernathy, Alawa, Beers, Billet, Bly, Bryan, Caesar, Clemens, Edwards, Elfman, Elshaw, Gibbons, Glass, Griffin, Harding, Hart, Judge, Lowell, Post, Reese, Rousseau, Russell, Shaw, Sherper, Stepov, Smothers, Steffens, Story, Sullivan, Swift, and Turner. And there are no additional public comments.
Great. All right, with that, we will see if we have any city commissioners in the room that would like to give a report. Yes.
David Hamilton, current chair of the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Commission. Mayor Bass, council members, staff, thank you for giving us a couple minutes of time. We're getting to the end of the year. We thought we might bring you up to speed a little bit on what's going on with the commission. First time we've reported. We're kind of new, so we're getting into it. You may have noticed a few murals going up around town. We actually approved 10 different murals, reviewed 10 different murals just this year, and I think we're up to about 16. One of the things we're happy with is working with staff. I think we've streamlined the process a little bit so that the public mural process is a little more user-friendly, and it's worked very well. Of course, a huge shout out to Rebecca Bryson and the Tahoe Art League, because they have been putting together most of these projects with the building owners and the artists and getting funding, et cetera. So we're very happy with that. Excuse me. We also have created an ACT work plan working with the Equilibrium Collaborative and staff and so forth, to help draft some strategic things to do for next year and in the coming years. It's a multi-year plan, and it gives us a little more direct direction as we get new commissioners. That'll help as well. One of the things we're very excited about, of course, is we get to do our micro-grant program again next year. We appreciate the council approving that in the budget, so $20,000. It was very successful last time we did it, and we're very excited to do that, move forward. Also, the other big project, which we've been getting through, is our ARPA funds, the $100,000. The commission a while back decided to do a single project in the Lakeview Commons area where it would have the best visibility, et cetera. And I believe we got 10 applications that the commissioners all evaluated, moved forward to staff, and there was one, I believe, selected, and they're working towards contract. I think you will probably see that coming to you on the 19th of November. So we're very excited about that as well. And the last thing is we are currently drafting a racial equity statement. We have a subcommittee who was working with staff just the other day. They have a draft coming forward. We will probably have that together in the November meeting for approval in December, so we'll have that statement as well. So just to bring you up to speed again, thank you very much. And also a shout out to our John Stark and Kelly Edwards and the staff that's been doing so well. They're really good at guiding and supporting us, and we're very happy with that. So it keeps us on our toes. But thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hamilton. Great report. Any other commissioners in the room that would like to give a report? No, seeing none, we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Anybody here on council that would like to pull an item off of the consent? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and open up public comment for the consent agenda. Yes, Mr. Mosier.
Good evening. Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. I'd like to comment on what I believe it's number 13, having to do with second reading of your pay raise. Going back to October 4th, Tahoe Tribune, they have a comment in here, and they're covering about raises for council members and treasurer, and has about going from $12.64 to $13.94, and it says, quote, Wallace said she's always voted against council member raises. Good for you. Despite making what she facetiously called negative 27 cents an hour with commission meetings, emails, and other duties. People aren't doing it for the money, and Council Member Robbins agreed. That's all and well, except if you go on Transparent California, and this is where one of the problems here in this town is there's no investigative reporting whatsoever, and that's why people can say and do what they want up here and elsewhere and whatnot, and without investigative reporting, there's no checks and balances. But if you looked just a little bit, you would find under Transparent California, John Friedrich, regular pay $15,069, and then when you come total pay is that much. Benefits $28,617, total pay and benefits $43,687. It's more than $1,500 or $15,000. Ms. Cregan, $15,069 was the regular pay and benefits of $27,158, comes to $42,228. Tammy Wallace, $7,973. I don't know why you got paid half of what everybody else did, but anyway, benefits $26,617. So your total pay and benefits $36,591. Cody Bass, Mayor, regular pay $13,130. Total pay $14,210. Benefits $11,976. For a total $25,107. And down at the bottom, Scott Robbins, $15,069, regular pay. Total pay $15,069, benefits $611.64 for a total pay and benefits of $15,681. So yes, you get health care and perks, and so it's not just the $1,500 or $1,200, $1,300 a month. And, it's one reason I said, for years is either become a charter city, do what's necessary, give you 30,000 and no health
Mr. Moser.
benefits.
Yep. Anybody else that would like to give public comment on the consent agenda? In the room, seeing none, we will open up Zoom.
Yeah, we'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on today's consent agenda. There's no additional public comment, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, bring it back to council for a motion.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
That motion unanimously carries. Thank you.
All right, so with that, we will go ahead and move on to item number 14. This is the Sugar Pine Village Affordable Housing Project Phase 1B, and this is going to be Miss Jessica Wackenhut-Lomelli.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. Jessica Wackenhut-Lomelli, Housing Manager. Today, we're here to conduct a public hearing for the Sugar Pine Village Affordable Housing Project Phase 1B. This is pursuant to the Federal Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, or TEFRA. TEFRA requires that a public hearing be held by the governing body of the jurisdiction in which a project to be financed with tax-exempt financing is located, and that the governing body approve the proposed financing. Sugar Pine Housing Partners LP has requested that the California Municipal Finance Authority, or CMFA, serve as the municipal issuer of the bonds in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $35 million of tax-exempt revenue bonds to finance Phase 1B of Sugar Pine Village and the issuance of tax credits. The CMFA is a joint powers authority formed to assist local governments, nonprofit organizations, and businesses with the issuance of both taxable and tax-exempt debt. The city is in no way exposed to any financial liability by reason for its membership in the CMFA. The CMFA also shares a portion of the issuance fees with its member communities, including the city of South Lake Tahoe. It is estimated that the city will receive between $12,000 and $15,000 that will go to the general fund as a result of this. This is required under the U.S. Internal Revenue Code in order for all or portion of the bonds to qualify as tax-exempt bonds. Like I said, this is a required portion of these tax-exempt bonds for it to go to public hearing, and public notice was also published. We have also with us today Connor O'Brien from the CMFA to answer any further questions that you all may have. Today, staff is recommending that the City Council adopt the resolution approving the issuance of the bonds by the CMFA for the benefit of Sugar Pine Phase 1B Housing Partners LP to provide for financing of the project, and such adoption is solely for the purpose of satisfying the requirements of TEFRA, the codes, and California Mint Code Section 6500. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ms. Lomelli. Council, any questions on this item? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and open this up to public comment. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment? Yes, Mr. Teixeira.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, Steve Teixeira on behalf of Tahoe Chamber. First of all, we want to congratulate the city and your partners in the opening and ribbon cutting of Phase 1, Sugar Pine Village, and encourage you to take the affirmative action that staff is recommending so we can move forward to additional phases of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teixeira. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we will go to Zoom.
We'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 14. No additional public comments, Mayor.
All right, so bringing it back to council for discussion or a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to pass a resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $35 million by the California Municipal Finance Authority for the purpose of providing financing for a residential housing facility known as Sugar Pine Village Phase 1B.
I'll second.
Great, we can vote. All right, moving on to item 15, almost identical, except we have an A, but Ms. Lomelli.
Good evening, back again.
We're conducting another public hearing for another phase of the Sugar Pine Village Affordable Housing Project. This one is for Phase 1A. So like I mentioned in the previous item, this is a public hearing that's required. So like I said before, Sugar Pine Housing Partners LP has requested that CMFA serve as the municipal issuer of supplemental bonds. And so this is a supplemental bond issuance. So that's how it's different than Phase 1B that I just mentioned. Like I said, the city is in no way exposed to any financial liability because of its membership in CMFA. This is just a requirement under the U.S. Internal Revenue Code, and we are conducting the public hearing today. Like I said, Connor O'Brien from the CMFA is here if you have any questions on this particular phase as well. Staff is recommending that the City Council adopt the resolution approving the issuance of the bonds by the CMFA in the benefit of Sugar Pine Village Phase 1A to provide supplemental bond financing for Phase 1A, and such adoption is solely for the purpose of satisfying the requirements of TEFRA, the codes, and California Code Section 6500. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Lamelli. Any council member questions? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and open up public comment. Yes, Mr. Teixeira.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Again, for the record, Steve Teixeira on behalf of Tahoe Chamber. So obviously, we support your affirmative action on the staff recommendation, and like to thank Lynn Barnett, who's in the audience from St. Joseph Community Land Trust, for being a great partner, longtime visionary of the Community Land Trust, and this is a proud moment, I think, for the trust. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Teixeira. Yes, Mr. Barnett.
Lynn Barnett, President of St. Joseph Community Land Trust, one of the partners. I'm just here to say thank you. You can't say thank you enough for all the support we've received from the city and everybody else on this great project. We had our ribbon cutting last week for the first phase. We've got residents moving in. They're happy, we're happy, and we're happy to move forward in the next phases. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barnett. All right, any other public comment in the room? Seeing none, we will go to Zoom.
We'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 15. No additional public comments, Mayor.
All right, bringing it back to council for a motion.
I'll make a motion. Yogi Berra said it was deja vu all over again. So I move to pass a resolution authorizing the issuance of supplemental revenue bonds in an amount up to $35 million by the California Municipal Finance Authority for the purpose of providing financing for a residential housing facility known as Sugar Pine Village Phase 1A.
I'll second.
All right, we can vote.
That motion carries.
Great. All right, moving on to regular new business, item 16, which I am super excited for, the design build contract with Wild and Energy Solutions for energy updates at city facilities. And this will be Ms. Sarah Letton and Anush Najat.
Test the clicker here. How does that work, Sue?
It's not working.
Something's happening.
Let's see. Oh, yeah, you just have to push this button.
Okay.
That one.
Alrighty, there we go. All right, here we go. Hello, council, fellow staff members. I'm Sarah Letton, Sustainability Coordinator with the City of South Lake Tahoe. I'll be presenting to you today about our energy upgrades project, and should be joined soon by my colleague, Ricky Riddle. I'll introduce the project team in a moment. The goals of this energy upgrades project include increasing energy efficiency and renewable energy generation while addressing urgent facility upgrade needs. And we're also looking to find utility bill and maintenance savings that can pay for the project through time. This was a cross-departmental effort, and this is most of the project team here on the list. Includes a number of members from Public Works, and includes the city manager, Joe Irvin, finance director, Olga Tikomirova, and Wildan Energy Solutions. And noting that I am joined here by David Daniel, here behind me, will be available to take questions after the presentation. So I'd also like to note that Wildan services were procured via a rigorous two-stage competitive design-build pre-qualification and RFP process according to our city code. And my fellow staff member or myself we will dive into the measures a little bit more in a few minutes. So our city has a lot of needs across all these facilities, and we took a lot into consideration as we looked to strike a balance to bring you a project that could get as much accomplished as possible by using money that would otherwise pay utility companies, by using money that we would otherwise be paying utility companies to pay for the upgrades that we're going to get into. So more on that in a bit. But we took into account our facilities conditions assessment, which noted almost $50 million in needs over 10 years. We looked at competing needs, our commitment to public service, what we've currently got on our plates as staff, and certainly we're looking for greenhouse gas reductions. So this is the short list of measures that we settled on. Some measures will result in more utility bill savings than others. But we structured this so that the utility bill savings will be dedicated to paying debt service and will be paid off by year 15. After that, the city will be net positive in the general fund using those utility bill savings toward other important projects. So this is how we kind of separated it out in the contract that you can see in the council packet. And I'm going to get more in depth on the individual measures now. This project is looking to install over 400 kilowatts in solar parking canopies. So what you see here on the image on the left is like an example of the type of parking canopies we're thinking about putting in. And on the upper right is a schematic of the police department. Now these aren't final, but the project size is going to be about what you see here in terms of kilowatt size. Obviously they're not to scale. You can see that the bottom project there on the right is 242 kilowatts at the city's motor pool facility. These parking canopies will be really beneficial to our city's fleet because they're going to be protecting very expensive equipment from the sun, so so maintenance needs will be lower as well. So think about wear and tear on tires from the sun and stuff like that. The useful life of the panels is 35 years, and so utility bill savings will be realized until the end of the useful life of the panels. So savings essentially go up when it's calculated as an avoided cost of rising utility rates. So this item kind of bunches a few of the measures. Building automation systems, also known as building energy management controls, it's kind of known by a few different names, includes recommissioning of some of our appliances and Pelican thermostat integrations. So kind of what you're seeing in the images here is that this is going to allow city facilities staff to control on-off switches from an iPad, for example. So we're also going to be able to control or design in alert systems so that it will alert staff when something potentially catastrophic has gone wrong and essentially get on things earlier. So as an example, recently maintenance staff checked the ice arena roof to collect photos and inspect that existing roof as it pertains to a potential re-roofing project. But while on the roof, staff discovered that the cooling tower that had been scoped to be replaced was making strange noises and indicating a potential failure. They followed standard procedure of evaluating the culprit and attempting to reset, and finally requested a quote to replace what turned out to be a failed water pump that is essential to the operation of the entire ice chiller plant. So what we get out of building operations is that when that little thing is potentially going to cause a full catastrophic failure, we're going to get that alert immediately, address it in real time instead of accidentally stumbling upon it, as happened recently. Did you want to say anything more about building automation systems? Very good. Okay. Very good then. So again, this will be a major maintenance staff time saver as well. This item is transformer upgrades and water meter downsizing. This is an easy one. Fast payback, long-term savings, easy implementation. Credit to Wildan for their experience in identifying hidden wastes and operational costs. This is what they're really good at. Also credit to STPUD for putting the water meter opportunity to our attention a while back, and it's good to circle back to it. Ricky, come on up. I'm going to turn it over to Ricky Riddle to tell you a little bit about the kind of key project in this big energy upgrades project.
Yeah, hello everyone. Ricky Riddle, Construction Manager, Facilities Program Manager for City of South Lake Tahoe. A big part of this project is the ice arena in and of itself. Here you can see kind of the big listings of it, where there's a new roof that's being planned. It's actually a spray foam roof that Wildan has brought to us that we're really excited to see implemented, because it's a lower cost installation that can go over existing materials. And if it proves to be of high quality that Wildan is stating, and they're giving their word behind it, then it could be an avenue that we utilize for other properties within the city as well. The ice plant, and we're saying the plant because it's not only the large chiller plant, but in addition to the cooling tower that goes on top of the roof that is also fundamental, as well as infrared cameras that will measure the temperature of the ice, as well as any imperfections in it, that gives us more ability to really fine tune. It's a much more advanced system than what we currently operate with, which is just slab sensors. This actually has thermal imaging cameras that are over top. And then the micro turbine refurbishing is actually being transitioned from the existing rec center and will be reutilized. It is a substantial cost savings. It's also listed within the overall project scope, and it's really clear to see the direct payback from already owning that facility. And I think it's a great utilization of funds to reutilize that at a facility that will continue to remain, whereas the existing rec center, as we know, will be no longer with the completion of the new one.
Nice, and just noting for the record that this equipment is all over 20 years old and is at risk of catastrophic failure and needs to be upgraded anyway, and so we're finding efficiency and cost savings by getting out ahead of it a little bit.
If I may, just to jump in there, it was about 2 months ago, I was on the phone with the operator of the ice arena that we have, the concessionaire. I think Ricky was there, and we had a manufacturer out fixing a broken component on the ice, on the chiller. And I think the guy joked, but I think he was partly serious as well. And he said, yeah, we only have 4 of these parts left, so you better fix this entire system before we run out of these antiquated pieces of equipment that was put in 20 years ago. So.
It would be quite a shame to see catastrophic failure happen and all those contracts go at risk, the ice hockey leagues go sideways. So getting out ahead of this is important. Okay, so the city has ambitious greenhouse gas reduction goals, and I don't want to, disregard the amazing financial opportunity of this project. I don't want that to totally overshadow the fact that we're saving some substantial greenhouse gases here. We're going to make a good dent in our government operations GHG reduction goal and our renewable electricity goals. And these goals and how we're addressing them are exhaustively noted in the policy implications section of the staff report. So we're finding, I have more detail on that if anybody is interested. But we are looking at about a 14% reduction in that buildings and facilities sector of our government operations footprint, and that'll be ongoing for all these years. All right.
Sarah, if I may,
Yeah.
to highlight, this whole project scope of investing in our facility upgrades that so many need, and for years maybe have been set to the side, while also meeting these greenhouse goals, is really a creative funding approach that we put together for council to consider tonight. The goals that Sarah mentioned, our policies, our resolutions, those are some of the things that keep me awake at night, because they're aspirational goals. And for the first time in a long time, we're actually delivering some GHG reduction, but quite frankly, the facility components tied to this and the efficiencies in our staff response to the issues that they come across is moving us into the 21st century of how we operate in this city. It's kind of a shame that during snowstorms, we have staff up on the roof, fixing the continuous leaks. Just the roof repair is critical. The chiller will, if that goes out, we'll be in a situation where council will have to consider a $4.5 million expenditure or close down an ice arena, rather than pre-plan for it in a responsible way that's tackling multiple goals that the council's established. So I just want to reemphasize the importance of merging these two. And I think it's a model that will, if council accepts this, we'll look at doing for other facilities as well.
Awesome. I appreciate that. Thank you. So further context of this project. When Public Works Director Anush Najad presented the CIP plan this summer, we had estimated a city contribution of $4.5 million being necessary. Now, here tonight, we're suggesting something more in the range of $1 to $2 million general fund contribution. We're coming in low on the request because projected utility bill savings are higher than expected, estimated by looking at local and state trends. Higher future energy rates means more future energy bill savings can be applied to the debt service. But please note that during the process of putting together this project, we did identify measures that are urgent but will not be addressed by this project. These include boiler replacements at Explore Tahoe and Bellamy Garage. These units are also at the end of their useful life and are at risk of failure. This will be pursued, but that risk of boiler failure in the meantime is noted for the record. This is something that council will be hearing more about. Additionally, an ancillary project is ice arena interior patching and painting, which only makes sense to do when the ice arena is shut down. That ice plant replacement is slated for a 1-month closure. So in order to not interrupt services further, staff recommend funding that effort separately. The estimated cost of that will be in the realm of $600,000. This will likely return to council early next year. Okay, I'm not going to read off this slide, but this agenda item today is not about the financing plan that will be brought to council, but that will return to you at next council meeting should this contract be approved. The staff report financial implications section says, we're looking for direction from council today on your willingness to appropriate $1 to $2 million and whether to look at a 15 to 20-year term. We're going to be making the case for a $2 million and 15-year term.
And if I will, Sarah, just to reiterate that the requested action does state that approving the mayor to execute this contract is contingent upon the city obtaining the financing. If there are some questions that come up on financing during clarifying questions, please ask. We can address some of those.
Absolutely. So my next slide is going to be a little bit clearer to kind of dive into some numbers high level. So the Willdan contract cost is $11.4 million and change, and adding in a city 5% contingency brings that to almost $12 million. So you've got the 11.9 there. Noting here that we also have I think I got that acronym wrong, Affordable Housing and Sustainable Communities Grant for $2 million has already been secured through the Sugar Pine Village project. That's going toward the solar installation at the motor pool. In this slide, we're estimating a $2 million general fund contribution. And so bringing that brings down the need to be financed down to 8.5. And right now, according to the RFP responses that our finance director has gotten back, our interest rate is coming in at around 4.055. But again, we're going to be bringing you that at a next meeting, and we'll get into the weeds on that a little bit more. So even though it is a bummer to have to pay interest, I think the kind of take-home message here is that net cumulative savings over 35 years is in the realm of $27 million. So it's not bad. We'll dive into that a little bit here. Agreed, this is an awful slide, but what I'd like you to see here is that in the red there toward the right is showing that we're paying down debt for 15 years. And after that, we're going in the black, which is essentially opening up those avoided costs to pay for whatever else council might want to take on at that time. So I'd like to point out as well that operations and maintenance is estimated here, but it is really difficult to quantify, and we think we're significantly underestimating that for what it's worth. So after year 15, it's money opens up. So high level here, noticing the number in the lower right, this is a slightly just off by a little bit compared to the 2 slides prior, but it's showing a net, that net savings in the realm of the 28 million. And after all is said and done, that's kind of what we're looking at, while also reducing carbon pollution, which I think is just fantastic. So again, we're going to get in the weeds a little bit more on this in a future council item, but yeah, and then I was just going to note that contingency. So upon the passing of this contract today will be contingent upon securing financing. So with that, we can be taking questions. We've got Ricky Riddle, who's been integral in the process of helping develop the project, and David Daniel with Wildan here, who can get in the weeds a little bit, should you have deeper questions. So,
Mayor, if I may, just regarding the financing, the plan is, if council accepts this, is to bring that back November 5th. When we did the RFP, we received 7 proposals. And the one that's listed in the staff report, or the presentation in the staff report, is the one that shows the most favorable response. Olga and I are still working to try to shave a little down for what we totally have to borrow. I think the staff report says 8.6 million. There's a chance that could be reduced to about 8 million because of the project timing. And again, the whole scope for this was set to be 18 months from start to finish. So it's fast for a lot of that work and coordinating efforts at the ice arena.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Lutton. And let's see, I will go ahead and move to Ms. Wallace.
Thank you so much. This is an exciting project. I think my question, well, maybe for you. What is the term of the measurement and verification contract?
So standard is 3 years. So that's what we've got kind of scoped in on that pro forma, if you notice. And in Wildan's experience, it is pretty standard to go with 3 years, because by that time, what you're looking to verify is, are all those appliances working and providing the energy savings that were originally estimated. If it's working in the first 2 years, it's going to be working in year 4, 5, 6, 7, and on. However, we can extend that if we like. If we're a couple years into this and we think we're getting good value out of this, the stakeholders want to see that it's measured and verified, we can continue on and extend that contract.
Well, then that leads to my second question. Do the upgrades that we're putting in lose efficiency over the life of the equipment or facility?
To some degree they do. So for example, solar panels do, but that is calculated in. So
It's calculated in.
It is.
Perfect.
Yep.
You answered my question. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Mr. Middlebrook.
Follow up on Ms. Wallace. Would all of the equipment that's being purchased also have its own warranties on that equipment from the manufacturers in addition to the 3-year monitoring time?
Yes, and I could invite David to maybe speak more on that, but we do get the standard warranties from the equipment manufacturers, as I understand.
Yeah, that's correct. So it obviously varies equipment to equipment. So solar panels, for instance, go as high as 30 years. Obviously, if something goes bad, you still need to take care of labor to replace a panel or something like that. But a lot of warranties we're seeing now are 10, 15, 20 years. So that's on top of the 3 years.
Thank you. And then on the financing, have you looked at some of the programs the California Energy Commission offers? I've seen they have an Energy Conservation Assistance Act low-interest loan program, and they'll loan local governments, including cities, up to $3 million at 1% interest rate. So just if you have not looked into them, I guess that's the question, if you've looked into those, and if not, would recommend that.
Okay.
I don't know if that'll work with the timeline and all that, because getting another government agency involved probably extends timelines, but it's something that may be worth looking at.
I'll discuss it with,
Yeah, it was not looked at as part of the scope. I don't know, I know David with Wilden has a lot of experience building these portfolios, if you will, for project delivery, and has worked with the CEC. So I'm not sure if he's familiar with that. Do you have any, could you address that really quick? Thanks.
We get this question a lot from our municipal customers. So it's a great program and offering. It is first come, first serve. So that $3 million max is that pool of money gets depleted very quickly, and you have to sit in line. So with the city, it's not that we didn't look at it earlier on, but there's also a lot of criteria related to paybacks and certain types of scopes that can apply for that $3 million max. You guys have a lot of very critical infrastructure improvements that need to happen, and it would be terrible to get 2 years down the road and they end up giving us $1.2 million. We can't hardly do anything with that, escalation rates, all those types of things. So we made a decision pretty early on to do this comprehensively. On a slower moving project where it's just lighting upgrades and simpler stuff where you could wait, that's absolutely something that would be worth rolling the dice. But you look at, 1% interest versus 4% interest, and you look in that cumulative savings off potentially the last one we waited for was like 19 months to get a decision made because they ran out of money twice. So it's you just don't know what you're going to get, just like on-bill financing programs and other utilities. Yeah, good question.
thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Robbins.
Yeah, my question may be premature and a little over-detailed, but the solar canopies, I was looking at the scope of work on page 127 for the motor pool photovoltaics. I was just curious about the height, like the physical height of the canopy. We have some very tall equipment, and near there is where is the current motor facility for some of the transit vehicles as well. So I just wanted to find out if we are planning to make sure that the physical height clearance of the canopies are sufficient to store our larger equipment. I'm thinking of some of our snow removal equipment, which is quite tall, and our transit and potential, not just current, but potential future transit vehicles that will be operated by the forthcoming JPA as that gets brought into sort of the local purview.
Definitely, we've looked at that, and in fact, the locations where the canopies are currently scoped for is where the largest equipment is. So we're building it to that size, and we're building them a little bit higher to account for a future potential grading project on the site to address some flooding issues. So definitely looking to future-proof that.
And I'm sure the answer to this is in the affirmative, but I figure I'd ask it to forestall public questions. Can you address the snow load? Make sure that just for the public's, I'm sure you have, but I would like to make sure that just for the public record to hear that you've considered snow loads.
It's always worth asking that. I hope council always asks that. In fact, snow considerations was like bolded in our RFP. And Wildan was selected for their extensive experience in high elevation, snowy resort communities. I don't know if you want to say anything else.
I survived a couple of years ago too, so I'm very aware of all the snow loads. But so we did over-engineer the steel elements to the canopies as well as wind. So we're thinking ahead, not just the height for all the future equipment, but also the snow and for the snowmageddon that could come down the road again.
All right, I appreciate it. I'm certain to get that question from the public, and I want to be able to say that it was asked and answered. Thank you very much.
Great. Well, thank you. If there's no other questions, I really just have comments, so I'll make them after public comment. Thank you so much, Ms. Letton.
Mr. Mayor, before we go to public comment, staff is recommending one change to the resolution that I just wanted to flag for you, and it's based on the term sheet that we received from Bank of America, which is going to be our selected financer for this. So the change would be to item number 4 in the resolution on page 3, that it would read in its entirety, authorizes and directs the mayor to execute the energy savings contract with WES in the not-to-exceed amount of $11,414,389, with city-held 5% contingency in the amount of $570,719, with edits to Exhibit 5 and 6 to include the financing lessor as a dual obligee on the payment and performance bonds upon obtaining of financing for the project and approving related documents. And that change, which is in the middle of that paragraph there, is just to make sure that the bank is also able to call in the bonds if there's an issue with the project. And we've confirmed that Wildan is acceptable with that change.
Okay, great. And will we need to put that in our motion, essentially?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I took enough notes.
I'm gonna need a crib sheet for that one. I hung in there as best as I could.
Yeah, when it's time to make a motion, I can help you out.
Okay, great. That's very nice. Great. Well, so with that, we will go ahead and open up public comment on this item. Thank you, Ms. Letton. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment on item number 16? Yes, please state your name for the record.
Hi, council and staff. Patricia Sussman. I feel like I haven't been here in a while, but this topic always brings me out. So I'm prioritizing my attendance tonight because, among other competing commitments and responsibilities, because proactive action to reduce carbon emissions and upgrade energy infrastructure is important. As Sarah's presentation illustrated, taking action to build a more stable, efficient, and safe infrastructure has multiple long-term benefits for the community that extend beyond carbon reduction to encompass improvements to public health, safety, and our city's energy security. I applaud the vision and efficiency of packaging these upgrades into a comprehensive package. It's an exciting and important opportunity, and I'm excited to see the city move forward with implementation. And just last note, I've been a member of the 100% renewable, South Lake Tahoe 100% renewable committee since we first passed a resolution to reduce carbon emissions, I think, back in 2017. So excited to see progress on that front, and good work putting this together.
Thank you for the comments. Yes, Mr. Mosier.
Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. Yeah, good point to make there, Mr. Robbins, about snow load. And another thing is hailstorms. Short while back in the summer there, in the news was they were showing in Nebraska a whole field, acres and acres and acres, and like 80% of them, solar panels got destroyed, broken by a hailstorm. So, I mean, it's been a while since we had a big one. We've seen pea-hail, sized hail here frequently. And before the ones were put in here at the airport, actually I got caught on my bike in a hailstorm here, and it was actually the size of a quarter. I had a quarter in my hand and measured about 4 or 5 that I picked up off the ground. So something like that. So, you know, you might want to even just look into for snow load and hail, doing ones with that can be adjustable. Just they have ones with gas, you know, tubes on them there that can adjust them up and back for sun, but also for, you could use it for something like that where they could be change the angle on it so it's not coming directly on them at a sharp angle, almost a 90-degree angle. What I would, you know, we haven't, not even in the 5-year plan, is for a city hall. And, you know, rather than put in for some of these buildings that possibly may be getting upgrades, is why not just build a new city hall? You know, you don't even have money in this to replace this fluorescent lighting in here with LEDs, which fluorescent is the worst form of lighting known to man, just about. So I would look at, you know, putting in your 5-year plan, 3-year plan of doing a city hall and incorporating city manager, a city attorney, city clerk, development services, parks and rec, and whatever offices, you can combine them all. And also make a new state-of-the-art building that would save a tremendous amount of money. And then you could sell the other places, other buildings, and or rent them out or sell the buildings outright and use that money to offset the cost of it. So I think that's something that's very workable, and you could have a state-of-the-art facility here. Although I know you all enjoy the view out here, you don't want to be in the middle of town, and that's one of the selling points to work here, is you get to look out at the mountains here across the airport, but it'd be nice to have it in the middle of town where there's actually access to the city hall. The parking garage, Bellamy Court, there, the boiler, I don't, if you're still considering or contemplating adding a couple of floors on that, that'd be a good idea. So, if that's part or in the mix of adding on to that, then consider not replacing the boiler if that needs to be replaced, or if it's going to end up having to be relocated. So take that into consideration, and would strongly recommend putting the extra couple floors and have Heavenly Village. Mr. Castile has 40 businesses there, paid for no parking, have them pay for the floors.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment on item 16? Yes, Mr. Exline.
Good evening, City Council members. Nick Exline. I'm here on support of in behalf of the project, and I think this should be a positive day, a really celebration. I really want to speak on this on a few different levels. First of all, I'm a small business owner here in South Lake Tahoe and a resident, and I got to say, anytime you can reinvest in yourself instead of giving that money to somewhere else, that's just a no-brainer. You do that every single time, especially when that partner you're giving the money to is going to be increasing rates again and again and again. Taking control of your energy, the cost you pay, it's just a smart business decision for the city. I'm also a South Tahoe Public Utility District board member, and I don't know if there's anybody that can empathize with what Sarah and staff has gone through to bring this forward. I've permitted projects all over the country, California Coastal Commission, TRPA, of course, gaming entities, and there was nothing like permitting and getting it through renewable energy in Tahoe. The single hardest thing I've ever done. At STPUD, it took 6 years. I got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in that amount of time. So the credit to Sarah and team and what they've done to bring it here is truly amazing, and that's why it should be a celebration. Joe knows how tough it can be. Council knows how tough it can be. This is really an amazing thing. And again, it's bringing security, safety back to our community. Finally, I really want to speak as a 100% committee member and the chairman. I was here with Trish in 2017 when we signed the 100% renewable commitment. And as many things and as aspirational goals, we worked as hard as we can. And I think speaking with Sarah the other day was a really kind of important thing, especially in the times we live now. We're doing the best job we can with the resources we can. And that's all you can do in life. And so even though we haven't gotten to exactly where we want to be, this is still an amazing achievement brought forth by the community initially. Members on this council were also there, from staff, supported throughout. And again, every single time, energy efficiency, sustainability, and security for our community. So, as so many things go forward, I can't tell you how supportive I am of this project, happy that we're here after all these years, and just a really positive achievement. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Exline, for the comments. Yes, just state your name for the record.
Hi, Council. Luke Scheidler, South Lake Tahoe. I've been a clean energy professional for 15 years, a lot of that dealing with large energy efficiency projects, and doesn't really matter who you are, an individual, a corporation, a city. It's hard to swallow this big upfront capital cost, just trusting that the savings will come over time. But it is a very well proven model, and couple things stand out from what I saw in the presentation. One is just the timing of the thing, timing it with the end of useful life of so many of these other things winds up being a slam dunk for these types of projects. And also, there's so many different technology options, and how could we ever choose? But Wildan has been doing this for a long time, one of the absolute leaders here, and has put together a package of measures that will continue to deliver savings, both financial and carbon, for the duration of the project. I think it's a slam dunk financially, carbon-wise, operation and maintenance, all while improving comfort, safety, service level. So thanks.
Great, thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move to Zoom.
Yeah, we'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 16. I see one hand raised. Mr. Friedrich.
All right. Well, it's good to see you all. Good evening, Mayor Bass and Council. I'd say this has been a long time in the works, which you can see in the strength of the staff report and the proposed benefits and value proposition. So great job to Sarah. So I just want to encourage my former colleagues to pass the resolution to execute a design build contract with Wildan, and then subsequently commit to spending the necessary amount from the general fund, which really should be thought of as a profitable investment, as pointed out by several speakers. There's so many good reasons to take this action. First, I'd say it's just the right and smart thing to do. The project helps the city walk its clean energy talk. It helps meet numerous strategic plan and resolution commitments on renewable energy, energy efficiency, and greenhouse gas reduction made by several councils, starting, as Trish said, in 2017. I know, Devin, you were there in the audience as well with the big crew, and I just remember that being a day that really was positive, as has, every action taken by the council on renewable energy is always kind of has a feeling of kind of real solidarity in the community. The project accomplishes badly needed facility upgrades. I'd say the ice arena upgrade alone is reason to vote yes. Modernizes building system controls. On top of that, it offers a very strong return on investment. As Sarah said, $27 million in savings for a $2 million expenditure. It's harder to get a better bang for the buck than energy efficiency and maintenance savings, way better than, for example, parking money in a checking or savings account. Voting yes will help future councils spend more money on roads, police, and fire by giving less to Liberty and Southwest Gas. The more they keep raising the rates, the more the city will save with efficiency measures and on-site solar. As Nick said, we should take every opportunity possible to invest in ourselves. By voting to move the contract forward, you'll keep the city in a leadership position in the region, state, and country on creating a clean energy future. So I just say in closing, there are a lot of things to love here, and agree with all the other speaker comments as well, and look forward to seeing a unanimous vote in favor of this exciting project.
All right, thank you. There's no additional public comments, Mayor.
Great, all right. So with that, we will go ahead and bring this back to council. I'll just say, I think this is incredibly exciting and really aligns with our strategic goals. And again, it's just what makes sense. And the amount of deferred maintenance that it actually addresses as we're doing these energy savings, I think is just remarkable. Great work. I look forward to the next projects that come forward. So yeah, with that, I will go ahead and look for council members. Mr. Robbins,
Yeah, I just had a follow-up question. I guess this is a yes and question. There are many other locations around the city that the city owns, city properties that might be good locations for decked over solar. The transit center and State Line comes to mind. The parking garage, at the top level of the parking garage, also comes to mind. I guess my question is, what are the limiting factors for doing more? Seeing as this was a financed action based on savings. So what limits us from doing this, but in other places as well?
This is a great question. I'd love to do more. We just had to kind of package this up and bring something forward, because we could have kept planning and planning forever. We did look at all the best sites for solar, and we came up with these, but I would say that if all goes well, we can look at extending and expanding the Wildan contract. So let's start with this, and let's see where it goes.
So getting started is sort of you gotta
start.
You gotta take a bite first. So there wasn't a particular I'm thinking in terms of, for example, with the Public Utilities District, with, they ran into issues with STPUD as to how much solar they could install at one site. And that was a limiting factor for them, in addition to just the general problem of, you got to take a bite, but I'm wondering if we haven't run into those those external limiting factors.
Yeah, I could get in the weeds a little bit. Essentially, the parking garage has embedded, I think you say hydronics, right? Makes it tricky for installing those posts to hold the solar. So it was a much more expensive project to do that, for example. Liberty's net energy metering tariff limits us to offsetting the amount of energy that we use on that site. So for example, the PUD uses like 3 megawatts. So 1 megawatt was the cap at Liberty. None of our sites are using quite that much. So we can get in the weeds a little bit about it, but yeah, we have some limits on the way the rules are written.
I'm also looking at like we have a host of buildings in that area as well, in addition to the parking lots. So I was wondering about options for putting rooftop solar, which requires less steel installations, but then you have the building has to be able to support it. So I'm wondering what, if any, thought was put into there, or is that considered for like a next phase type of activity?
We can look at it for the next phase, but Explore Tahoe right now does not have much energy usage. If you can think about it, it has a lot of gas usage. So yeah, it just wasn't ripe for a slam dunk project right now.
Ms. Letton, maybe you could mention the SEED project that you worked on several years ago that
yeah.
analyzed a lot of sites in the city for solar.
Yeah, good point. I don't remember what SEED stands for, but it actually did originate and included the STPUD solar project. So there was a number of entities in the basin that were looking at getting economies of scale for solar installations, and over time that whittled down for different reasons. STPUD kept with it. Actually, our motor pool project is a remnant of that original SEED effort. So it is coming to fruition, but yet in a different way. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to clarify one thing. Because this is a public works contract, we couldn't amend it to increase the scope, so it would be, if we do another phase, it would be another RFP if we go in the design.
Fair enough.
But,
Thank you.
Just a small point.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Stroud. Ms. Cregan.
Thanks so much. This is so exciting. I just want to make a couple comments. I really appreciated what Mr. Friedrich said about how this furthers our leadership in the region. That's, I think, something that we're all hearing a lot, is that other agencies and municipalities are really looking to us after the water bottle ban and after some other things, and that feels really good. And so that's, I think, something that, the Climate Action Plan and all of your work, something that we can really move forward with this effort. And then I just want to real quickly address the ice arena, because that was a community priority. It is at the end of its life, and with the hockey team now that's coming, their first game is on Thursday. I think that this will be a really smart investment for our community and our youth sports and all of those things that we're talking about. So I think that the timing couldn't be better for this. So thanks.
Great. Thank you for those comments. All right. So with that, I think we are looking for a motion, and we probably need some help from Ms. Stroud in crafting this.
I have the thing next to me, so I'm happy to
Oh, all
make
right.
the
Well,
motion.
then, I guess go right ahead.
Give me a moment to assemble this. All right, so it's this plus what? So I just read the whole thing?
You could just say insert underlines after that dollar.
Okay. So I move to authorize and direct the mayor to execute the energy savings contract with WES in the not-to-exceed amount of $11,414,389, with city-held 5% contingency in the amount of $570,719, with edits to Exhibit 5 and 6 to include the financing lessor as a dual oblige on the payment and performance bonds upon obtaining of financing for the project and approving related documents.
And there's more to it.
Okay.
To pass the
And,
whole
and,
resolution.
and pass a resolution authorizing authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a design-build contract with Wilden Energy Solutions in an amount not to exceed $11,414,389 contingent upon the city financing for the project, and finding that the cost of the project will be offset by the anticipated savings in the energy consumption. Is that correct?
Okay, I'll second that.
Right, we have a motion and a second, and we can vote.
Did that capture both the resolutions? There's only one resolution, sorry. Oh, it's or.
There's
I'm
only
sorry.
one resolution.
I'm sorry. And who seconded that, Ms. Cregan?
Was that correctly
Thank you.
constructed? Yeah. It was hard. I was trying to follow it all.
That motion unanimously carries. Thank you.
Great, all right. and
Mayor,
with-
if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's more what I want to see there. Honestly, I could sit up here and talk about all of our staff in such glowing ways, but Miss Letton really stepped up, worked, I would say, outside of her comfort level with Mr. Najad, providing some mentorship, and Ricky Riddle, our new construction facility manager, and pulling this together. I just appreciate all your hard work, Sarah and Ricky, and Anush, thanks for your leadership and helping to guide it through. And
Yes, great comments, and thank you. It's a big day for the city and something to be celebrated without a doubt. With that, we will take a 10-minute break and come back at 6:55 for the final item of the night. All right, so we will go ahead and bring this meeting back to order, and we are on to item number 17. This is a discussion around tourist accommodation units, and Mr. Hitchcock.
Use discussion on potentially requiring short-term rental properties to obtain tourist accommodation units in order to operate as directed by City Council on June 6. The use and assignment, allocation of tourist accommodation uses are governed by Chapter 50 of the TRPA Code of Ordinances. Chapter 50 is intended to award and distribute the allocation of growth in development in an orderly fashion in order to meet and maintain TRPA's environmental thresholds. TRPA code further requires that tourist accommodations of use is required for any property that creates a new additional tourist accommodation unit. This is different than conversion on site or redevelopment of existing tourist units of use. That doesn't require an allocation of tourist accommodation units. So it's only when you're creating new additional tourist units. The code further defines tourist accommodation unit as a unit with one or more bedrooms, with or without cooking facilities, primarily designed to be rented by the day or week and occupied on a temporary basis. Then it further defines tourist uses as either a bed and breakfast, hotel, motel, and other transient dwelling units. Bed and breakfast, it falls under other transit dwelling units, or timeshares, either in a residential or non-residential design. In the definition of tourist accommodation uses, TRPA's code does not mention vacation home rental in that definition. The definition is actually defined in the residential category of single-family dwelling and multifamily dwelling. So for the purposes of TRPA, vacation home rentals are considered residential uses. City staff did consult with TRPA legal counsel to discuss this very issue. TRPA counsel did express some concerns with potential conflicts with their regional plan, rules, procedures, code of ordinances, and other established growth management systems. Some of the concerns raised by TRPA legal counsel, concerns with assigning a TAU may conflict with TRPA code that requires a unit of use to be used for which the use pertains. In its most simple terms, tourist accommodations uses would have to be a permissive use on a parcel or in a land use district in order to assign a TAU or to convert an existing residential use to a TAU. Of the 41 residential districts in the city limits, only 4 current districts actually allow tourist accommodation uses as a permissible use. Tourist uses are generally permitted in other areas of the city limits, particularly in the commercial zones and obviously in the tourist area. From a city zoning perspective, this would result in potentially the creation of illegal use in land use districts that currently do not permit tourist accommodation uses. So in order for that assignment to occur, a wholesale zoning amendment would be required in order to assign assign TAUs to short-term rental properties. The other concern brought up by TRB legal counsel is assignment of TAUs will have to come from either banked or converted TAUs. TRPA does have a pool of TAU bonus units. However, those are restricted for special projects. And then staff did do a quick analysis of the number of permitted VHRs currently in the city, and not counting the Marriott property and the Zalanta property, we have approximately 393 active permits within the city limits today. That includes short-term rentals as well as QVHRs, does not include hosted rentals. Hosted rentals is about another 87 or so. TRPA expressed concerns that the proposed change would require a fundamental policy shift in TRPA's growth management system that would likely require a region-wide analysis and a region-wide environmental analysis of its potential effects, and also potentially, well, not potentially, also local buy-in from other jurisdictions. I went through the code, through the rules and procedures, and I was not able to find any sort of precedent or any procedural process that would allow local jurisdictions to adopt a growth management system that is specific just to local jurisdictions. The way the TRPA growth management system functions, it applies to the region as a whole. So any change to that system would also apply to other local jurisdictions. Staff, well, we did receive a letter from John Hester, TRPA senior management, stating that that for the local government committee, which the city is a member of, for their agenda for 2024-2025, they did identify this concept of assigning TAUs to short-term rentals is an emerging issue, and it is agendized on their agenda to be a topic to be discussed in 2025. And with that, concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Mr. Hitchcock. Ms. Wallace?
Mr. Hitchcock, with the conversion table that TRPA has out, what is the ratio for converting an RUU, a residential unit of use, to a TAU?
It's 1-to-1.
And then a TAU to a residential unit of use?
It's 1-to-1.
It is also 1-to-1, okay. Don't we, in effect, because of the conversion, don't these homes have TAUs, or they could very easily, just because they have an RUU?
They could do the conversion from a RUU to a TAU, provided the use is permissible in that district.
Correct. Okay. The rest of mine is comments. I will wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. Mr. Robbins?
When is the discussion agenda? You mentioned that the item is agendized for 2025. Do you know when?
It didn't say, it did say when. It just, the email actually came out, I believe, the 10th of this month, and in the email it says it's scheduled to begin in 2025. The item itself talks about required short-term rentals to use a tourist accommodation unit instead of residence unit use. It's one of their items on the agenda.
But there's not a
date.
month or a date yet, but just in the year sometime?
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, any other questions from council? All right, we'll see you none. We'll go ahead and open up public comment.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment? Yes, Mr. Teixeira.
Good evening once again, Mr. Mayor and Council, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Teixeira, citizen of the region. This should be round filed. This should really be round filed, because you had 3 items this evening that were all very positive, that were forward-looking, visionary, all good stuff. Then you take a break and we come back to like a different atmosphere. So really this upsets a lot of things, and I bet that there's a lot of other local governments that would not be happy to have this foisted upon them. I don't know about whatever committee is going to see this at TRPA, but we would be there saying the same thing. So again, receive and file, round file, would be the action that I would suggest for you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teixeira. Sure, Mr. Wallace.
Dwayne Wallace, CEO, South Tahoe Chamber. I think round file might be too nice. I would think a shredder would be better. But the reason why is I answer the chamber phones a lot, and I'm getting calls from people saying, don't you want us there? Why don't you like tourists? And we've already punished the vacation rentals to the point that ridiculous with Measure T. And so now we have this last vestige of 300 or 400 not even worth it houses left that we want to find some way to punish further, and it makes no sense. I personally believe TRPAs only do it because it was brought up here. I say somebody make a motion in this thing, and let's get on with important business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Mr. Moser.
Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. If Joanne Marquetta had asked me, I'd have suggested to her that if you lend your ear to Steve Teixeira and Lou Feldman, you'll end up deaf and dumb. Juan Palma, who was the former TRPA executive director, literally got run out of town, him and his family, years ago, because he wanted to put our designation on allocations. meaning it had to be resident occupied, just so that more VHRs and vacation rentals weren't created, that we needed homes for residents. And he got run out of town, literally, for doing it. If you recall, he had to move his family out to Utah several months before he actually quit and moved there. And when he retired, he was praised by both sides of the aisle in Utah, which was stated to be extremely rare. Republicans and Democrats and independents there praised his job at BOM that he did. So, yeah, this is this is a good idea. Should have been done, in the beginning. You do have ones that are VHRs, like at Marriott, that, do have TAUs, so that's not a problem there, and several other places. But for the houses, it was, this issue from the beginning, for quite some years has been a problem of people having to get, do a bed and breakfast. The gentleman that was mayor, I forget his name right now, but was mayor, and also had built a bear place on Ski Run there that, he had to get TAUs to do his bed and breakfast and stuff there. And so why shouldn't people that are having 8, 10, 12 bedrooms have to get TAUs, or not even one TAU, in order to have a house for rent on a short-term basis? So, this should have been done long ago, should have been dealt with. We wouldn't have had all the problems that we have. And as far as converting a RUU to it, for it, you need the RUU to build your house on the lot. That's part of the deal. So for development, so you can't sell that off or trade that off for a TAU. So I suggest I would look into this, pound TRPA's ears, box their ears in, and they should have made the decision long ago in order to take action here, in order to rectify the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Yes, Mr. Messina.
Well, this sounds like more of Scott's nonsense, wasting time and money for our city, diverting our attention from things that are productive to fuel his vendetta against tourists. This should never even come to our council. It's a waste of time. And he's constantly trying to take rights away from property owners. If he cared so much about the housing availability in South Lake Tahoe for our workers and residents, like he claims he does, when he came here and invested in South Lake Tahoe, he could have bought a 14-unit apartment building and rented it out for whatever rates he wanted to. Instead, he invested in booze because he knows it's more profitable. You don't make a lot of money renting out houses. Why does he hate people who are trying to make money renting their houses? Because he doesn't have to really work for his money. He's rich. He don't care about the rest of the people. And he certainly don't care about the workers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment on this item? Yes, hi.
Hello, Mayor Bass, council members. My name is Shannon Witt, and I'm actually just talking as a City of South Lake Tahoe resident. I think that this is an awful idea. TRPA did do the commodity swaps for an RUU, commercial floor space, and a TAU, so that you can also take 300 square feet of commercial floor space. I don't know if this was to be looked at to put a TAU on top of an RUU for a commercial use of a residential property. If you did do that, you would be you'd be going against your affordable housing initiative, because there are only an allotted amount of commodities that TRPA will allow us to have. We will be built out in a number of years. Devin, you know this. I love you being up on here because you know about TAUs and RUUs and everything, as I'm sure all of you do. But if you have to have a TAU, you're taking away an RUU, which could have been an affordable housing unit if you wanted to. it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. You would have to change all of your different plan area statements. You would have to not only would it affect the city of South Lake Tahoe, then you're looking at the county, you're looking at Placer County, you're looking at Incline. This is going to affect every jurisdiction around the area. So I think that you guys should not be looking at this right now. Let TRPA look at it, and if they want to do something with it in 2025, then we can figure out from there, but there should not be something that you guys should be starting. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move to Zoom.
Yeah, we'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 17. No additional public comments, Mayor.
Great. All right. With that, we can go ahead and bring this back to council. You know what? I will actually open this up because I serve on the TRPA governing board, and I'm actually who asked for this item to be brought back at the TRPA level and it will come back to our local governance committee, which I also sit on. I do think that, as we look at the theory of what a TAU was really designed around, it was created to essentially create an overnight capacity limit for the basin, and this is decades ago. And there was a decision in 2011 that decided that an overnight vacation rental was not going to be considered in that TAU. And that decision, I think, is something that should be looked at again, because in 2011, we did not have Airbnb, and we probably had about 10% of the amount of VHRs that we currently have today. And when you look at what a TAU is, it's actually a hotel door. It's not a hotel or motel. And it really does get into what do we want the overnight capacity of the basin to be. And I think that when we've looked at the proliferation of VHRs over the last decade, we're up to 7,000 in the basin. And some of those are 5 to 10 doors, and some of them are only 2 to 3. But we have not ever really looked at, do we want to, and have we exceeded what we want our overnight capacity to be? I think people misunderstand, to me, and this is just my opinion, when we look at this at TRPA, it wouldn't be looking at the commodity pool that currently exists for TAUs. TRPA would need to create a new commodity pool for, let's just call them VTAUs at that point. And most likely, look at permitting what currently exists around the basin, but making a decision around, do we want more than this? Are there more that we allow? Or as ones come off of the market, like TAUs currently exist for hotels, do we allow them to come back on? And that policy could also look at things like the housing that is currently vacation rentals that could be long-term rental, and what do we do to incentivize those homes to move from a vacation rental to then renting to somebody, locally. For the North Shore and for the other parts around the basin, it changes drastically from what we're looking at here on South Shore. It's a much different conversation, and why it is more appropriate at the TRPA level to look at that policy. But do we exceed our overnight capacity on certain holidays, weekends, and that needs to be considered, because we do have, if it's 7,000 VHRs, essentially if you looked at that as every door, like we look at hotel room TAUs, it's a lot of doors, and we have to consider that. I mean, there is July 4th, we do have these weekends that, have we kind of just completely taken that theory out the window and let's have no limit to overnight capacity? I don't know that that's the right move to trying to protect the basin and what we're trying to do. So I think that it is the job of TRPA. I don't think that the city should take this on, but I just wanted to give that context from how I see it. So I'll open this up to Mr. Robbins.
Since the expansion of internet short-term rental sites like Airbnb and VRBO, we have added the equivalent of 14 Harrah's hotels to the Lake Tahoe Basin. In no universe would the TRPA otherwise approve the construction of 14 new Harrah's hotels in terms of overnight capacity for the basin. But we've done it by assigning this idea that an Airbnb is some kind of residential use, which is hypocritical to the own definitions that the TRPA has in their statutes. And I point to the report from City Council of the discussions with the TRPA legal staff that said in some instances, this is switching an Airbnb to a TAU, from an RUU to a TAU, would result in the creation of an illegal use of a tourist accommodation uses that are not permissible permissible in a given district. In other words, and then it defines a tourist accommodation use, right, as a unit with one or more bedrooms with or without cooking facilities, primarily designed to be rented by the day or week and occupied on a temporary basis. That's an Airbnb. An Airbnb is a unit with one or more bedrooms with cooking facilities intended to be rented by the day or the week and occupied on a temporary basis. That's what an Airbnb is, definitionally. And the concern is that if we make them call them what they are, units being used for the accommodation of tourists, that would be incompatible then with the uses in the district. But that's the point of having uses defined for your districts, because tourist accommodations are not appropriate in residential communities. But we've created this hypocrisy, or the TRPA has created this hypocrisy in their statutes by simply arbitrarily saying, no, these accommodation units for tourists, we're going to somehow count them as residential uses, even though nobody lives in them, nobody resides there. It's inconsistent with reality, it's inconsistent with their own definitions in their own statutes, and it's inconsistent with the environmental assessment needs of saying that the basin has a carrying capacity of a certain number of overnight tourists. When we say that, any arbitrary amount of our residential units can be used for overnight tourist limits, and the TRPA has no limits on that because we call Airbnbs residential uses. And therefore, every unit in the basin potentially can be used as an Airbnb up to whatever limit that the local government or the county sets. That's inconsistent. Measure T is a value here in the city, but we are in a single marketplace of housing in the South Shore that includes the county, that includes Nevada, that includes areas up in the east and west shore. And on the North Shore, the situation is even more severe. They have a 70% vacancy rate in Tahoe City because all the housing is used as Airbnbs. So these things are in conflict. So I would like to see this done. I'm frustrated and disappointed that the analysis comes back that says that, if we were to make a change in the city to demonstrate how this could be done, that would wind up being in conflict with TRPA code. So I agree with Cody that therefore the right thing to do is to fix this at the TRPA level, but it is broken. There is no universe in which a full-time 24/7 Airbnb is a unit of residential use.
All right.
It is a unit that accommodates tourists, period.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Ms. Wallace.
We are the city council for the city of South Lake Tahoe, not the Lake Tahoe Basin. There are 7,000 Airbnbs in the Lake Tahoe Basin, of which 393 are in the city, even though we are the highest population and the most density. This is a made-up problem that we're trying to solve with this. If TRPA would like to address this, that's their business. But this is not a problem for the community that we serve. It simply is not, and we are going way outside our lane. So unless Mr. Middlebrook minds, I'm gonna make a motion that we just receive and file because this is ridiculous. It's a waste of time.
All right, we have a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. We can vote. All right, we are moving on to the final item of the night. This will be on item 18, our agenda planning calendar. Mr. Irvin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next meeting is Election Day, November 5th. Get out there and vote. But I also wanted to just highlight one thing to change, the inclusionary housing in lieu fee update. That'll be moving to January of '25. We're required to give a report on mitigation dollars we've collected, and that giving the update in coinciding with our annual mitigation report makes a lot of sense. So I've changed the schedule to push that out to January, because that's when the report is scheduled to come to council. That's really the only thing I have for next meeting, 9 o'clock.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Irvin. Let's see, we will move to updates and announcements, and we will start with Mrs. Stroud.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple updates. Last week, I traveled to Long Beach for the League of California Cities annual conference, and as usual, it was very informative and helpful and worthwhile, and I got a lot of my continuing legal education credits out of the way, and also it was good to network with our colleagues from around the state. And second, on October 8th, the court down in Cameron Park heard our motions for summary judgment that both parties filed in the Measure T lawsuit, and we are still waiting for a ruling on that and hopeful that it will come early next month.
Thank you, Ms. Stroud. Mrs. Blankenship.
Yeah, I have received a request from the TahoeYouth.org, Carrie Chapman, to recognize November as Hope Month.
Great.
Okay, proclamation. Great. And then just one other piece of business on your December 10th City Council meeting. You will be deciding City Council boards and commissions. 3 of those are citizen appointments, so we are flying that solicitation for those 3 appointments. It's to the El Dorado County Community Action Council, the El Dorado County Commission on Aging, and the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency Advisory Planning Commission. So just to let you know, that's out there. We're soliciting applications for those 3 to be brought back in December.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Blankenship. Mr. Irvin.
Yeah, the two updates. This Thursday, I'll be meeting with Mr. Najad and Caltrans discussing winter operations in the South Shore region. There's quite a few people that will be there, so I'm sure we're going to continue to advocate for the things we've done on our quarterly meeting with regards to treatments on US 50, regarding how they're plowing and snow removal of the berms, et cetera. And then more internal, but just so you know, the next week in the morning for a couple hours on the 30th, we will be having our annual City Manager Awards with all staff. So it's the 3rd annual. It's becoming pretty popular, I think. And so good time for us to reflect and celebrate. Thanks.
Good stuff. Thank you, Mr. Irvin. All right, moving on to council member reports and comments, and I'll start with Mr. Middlebrook.
No.
All right. Ms. Cregan.
I attended the Cal OES Ambulance JPA meeting, and the highlight of that meeting was really the new building, which is really fantastic. It's funded almost exclusively by the county. That was a really difficult thing to get through. It ended up being double the original budget. But it's improved the morale, it's improved everything about the building, which, and the service, which then in turn makes their, what do they call that, the time when they get there? Yeah, their response time is much better, their morale is better, and so it was it was really a great thing to finalize.
Yes, ditto, very cool. Mr. Robbins.
Yeah, I attended the Cal Cities Conference last week. Sure, was a question? Oh, yes, sorry. I was just not facing it. I attended the Cal Cities Conference last week. There was one vote on the Friday session regarding a resolution to oppose state legislation that imposed differential impacts or differential rules on local versus statewide elected officials. This was an agenda item that on its surface sounded reasonable, but on further and closer reading of the resolution, it specifically mentioned AB 571 as an example of such unfair legislation that was sought to be opposed. AB 571 is a piece of statewide legislation which I strongly support that limits campaign donations in local elections to no more than $5,500. And so I voted no because I did not want to approve of Cal City's efforts to lobby against or to repeal AB 571. That was the one and only item on the voting agenda. And broadly speaking, I think money in politics is corrupting, and money in local politics even more so. The less of it, the better, especially when it's coming from in large quantities from outside the basin. So AB 571 imposes at least some limits for specifically local council elections. And while I would certainly like to see such campaign limits imposed on statewide offices, I don't think that would have been in the cards. So I voted no on that. Otherwise, there were a great deal of sessions. There were, I think, 3 different sessions I attended on homelessness. So that was a recurring topic. There was a fascinating session on Are California cities ready for electrification? Short answer, no. But the long answer was interesting as to exactly why. So I've written about some of these on social media as well, if people are interested in a more detailed breakdown of where I went and what my observations were. Again, just a very interesting set of panels there as well. Other than that, I do have an item for APC. Are we going to do that? We do that now or at the next time? Okay. Sure. And so then I have one item for APC. I reviewed more closely with staff over the last couple of weeks about how the lease to locals program is managed. And I verified that the parameters of that program are set directly by city council. And then the contract has the vendor execute those parameters that are set by council. So the parameters of that program, the dollar amounts, the durations are not part of the contract agreement. The contract agreement is just to execute city policy. So we have the flexibility to change qualification policy at our discretion. So I would like to ask to bring back at the next earliest meeting, which would be the meeting after next, a policy change for the lease to locals program for what I'm calling a half for half. That is a 6-month lease option for half the subsidy amount. This is because we seem to have largely hit a limit in how many people are signing up. Sign-ups are slowing down substantially, and there might be more takers for that program if there are people that don't come up for the wintertime. They're only here in the summer that might be willing to do half-year leases, especially since we have a large seasonal workforce in the winter and also in the summer. And I would like that sooner rather than later because the ski season's coming up upon us. And so, we're already getting a lot of people looking for housing for the winter season. So if that's a change we can make easily and rapidly just by changing existing policy, I would like to see that brought back relatively quickly.
For me, it would just be, I'd put it back to staff if that's possible for you guys, and if it's something that that's for me to support it.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm okay with that if you're okay with it.
So you've got your second? Yep. All right, very good. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Great. All right, Ms. Wallace.
I have nothing.
Great. All right. And for me, you know what? I really don't have anything at all. So with that, we are adjourned at 7:30.